Hello and welcome to Dice Masters United. I'm Spug.
I'm Ben.
I'm James.
And I'm Peter.
Coming up in this episode.
How do you decide how many dice to allocate to a character when building a team? We share a few pointers.
We're looking forward to the Two Team Takedown tournament getting underway and making a few predictions on what teams will come out on top.
And we'll be looking back on the BWX Fest 3 event that saw players go extra large in the team builds.
All that and more in the latest episode of Dice Masters United.
Yes, here we are, and after 75 takes of those opening sentences where people had to say Two Team Takedown and BWX Fest 3, we finally managed to get through it. And we're back for another episode of Dice Masters United, and we are back to the full complement of DM United presenters with Ben. Welcome back. We haven't seen you since Christmas. How are you?
They tried to keep me away, but I was pulled back in. They tried. I don't know what it is. Okay. Yes, I am back. Hello. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and Chinese New Year and everything and celebrations of all joy.
Thank you. And to you, how have you been? What's been going on in the life of Ben?
Very, very excited about spoilers for upcoming sets. Excited to be playing some Dice Masters again sometime soon. Frankly shocked the messages I saw on our Discord server when I logged in for the first time in a while. There was lots of photos of Naomi Campbell and Rihanna on our private message, which I didn't really understand.
No, you may well not, but that was because we were having an argument about
the magazine layout.
Magazine covers, exactly.
I was just like, okay, this is strange.
Well, that's random.
Yeah, so yeah, for anybody who didn't hear the last episode, one of the things that we talked about was the Hellfire Gala new OP card, and obviously the art of that is made up like a women's magazine, but we did have some discussion as to how appropriate or how kind of matching it was to a real magazine before we went on a show, but we didn't actually record that bit, so that's why Ben was a bit thrown by seeing pictures of Vogue front covers in our Discord server. But while we're on the subject, Ben, obviously one thing you didn't get to do was to share your thoughts on the OP cards, because obviously we talked about them in depth last time. Everyone's been all over them. I mean, obviously there's been, a whole raft of new cards, strange new designs, broken frames, and a new win con. I mean, what are some of your thoughts on what we've seen?
I think there were several people on this podcast who were a bit toned down, muted in their response to what I think are some really cool looking cards. I was pretty excited when I started seeing them. I really like the whole breaking the wall kind of ordering stuff, especially I grant you that I wouldn't want them on a full set. I want the full sets, the normal cards to look as they always have.
Yeah.
But for these kind of promo cards, I love the fact that their text is kind of incorporated into the graphics of them. The dice placement, I think, on the Powerball looks really good, actually. I know James really didn't like it. But I thought it looked really cool and a cool idea.
Right.
And just the way they're, all incorporated is very good in my mind. I think the functionality comes from having the basic versions of those for the most part. And actually the clearest ones probably is the Hellfire Gala, which is the one you need to be the clearest because it's all new text. And what text it is pretty exciting to have an alternate win condition. Seen it in other games like this before. So it's nice that that's a possibility. And obviously opens a whole new kind of avenue for them to explore. Not sure how playable Hellfire Gala is. I think very much what you said about Green Devil Mask is apropos in that it makes you play a certain way, and we're going to have to work out how to play with limited dice in the field, which is a fun kind of idea. But yeah, everything else I think looks great. I'm really excited the fact that there's super rares. I think maybe they've listened to us as consumers in that there's so many super rares that are already playable, and putting them into OP kits is a secondary way to get them, which is very useful. So yeah, no, I'm excited overall. I really like the way they look. And yeah, I'm excited to mess around with Hellfire Gala.
Yeah, I mean, Hellfire Gala is looking. I mean, actually, you know, when you think about it, it's. I wonder what discussions and what degree of playtesting has gone on behind the scenes at WizKids before they put that magic 16 on the Hellfire Gala. For anybody who hasn't yet seen the card, which I'd be surprised, but basically it's a 6-cost basic action that says draw and roll 2 dice. Then it says both you and your opponent field 3 sidekicks from their respective use piles. Then if there are 16 or more characters in the field, you win the game. And I'm just wondering how they went about settling on that 16 number, because actually if you think about it, you know, given that potentially 6 characters could be fielded from the Hellfire Gala effect itself, that only means that you need a total of 10 other characters in the field, and that would mean only 5 each, which, you know, is not that
well my idea. So
unlikely.
I think probably the number 16 comes from the fact that there will be 16 sidekicks in the game,
right? Yeah,
so there'll be 8 sidekicks on each team, so you could theoretically win the game without buying characters, which would be interesting. Force your opponent to field all their sidekicks and you field yours. But because that was one of the original ideas I had when I saw this card, was kind of go back to that old, was it the Kiln from Guardians of the Galaxy? Kind of. Right. Was it that one? The one where it forced your opponent to pay more for each character they had in the field, was it? That way around? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, the continuous one that says players must spend 1 more to purchase each character die for every character die in their field zone.
Yeah, so that combined with the Deadpool, bolty, destroy, damaged thing for each action you have in the field. Satchel, yeah. That kind of action-based team, I thought would kind of be interesting with this Hellfire Gala.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So because your opponent then would rely on you wouldn't have characters you rely on fielding if you just had actions. So they have to work harder to use your Hellfire against you. If you see what I mean.
I do.
So that's kind of what came into my mind. So the 16 makes sense to me in that you can force your opponent to get their 8 sidekicks out and you get your 8 sidekicks out, and then you win the game that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely really interesting to see how it's going to affect the game, if at all, in a way, because obviously it might not particularly, but I suspect it will. You know, a win con just like that, you imagine is going to shake the game up somewhere or another.
In Golden, it's mental.
Yeah.
Like, with PXG, it's mental. Like, your opponent can't use PXG for fear of you just getting out a bunch of Hellfire Clubs and, like, emptying their use pile of sidekicks.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you almost feel like it would be that kind of race. You know, a bit like if someone brings Investigation, the basic action that allows you to draw and roll 2 dice. There's often a bit of a battle at first just to snatch up the investigations, isn't there? In a game, often you wonder if
it's a bit. I mean, very similar to also the Vicious Struggle kind of meta matchup, which I think you guys also mentioned, that it kind of is a action that people might race to get. Then also you can kind of trick your opponents into doing that, because to get to a 6-cost action is a sacrifice for them. So you could throw it on your team just as a backup and then make your opponent buy a 6-cost character. If you 6-cost basic action, if you only plan on fielding a couple of characters, that's not so bad for you.
Yeah. I mean, we have got, obviously there's the Thor Global that reduces the cost of action dice, isn't there? That is there, and there will be in the Dark Phoenix set the Magneto, I want to say, Global, that's the Blue Eyes White Dragon.
No, it's Phoenix.
Phoenix, thank you. Yeah. Pay a bolt.
There's also
knock
Forge,
out one of your characters.
I hate that card.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
yeah, Forge never works.
It exists.
the one that discounts
makes them cost 3 less if it's energized, isn't it?
Energize, yeah.
But energize, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's cool. I really like all the artwork. I think it's very exciting. It'll be a nice thing to play on your team as kind of like a, hey, look at this cool card I have. I think we need that. That's like a lot of what the old promos kind of did. But yeah, even more so with these.
Oh, I was just looking at the Hellfire Gala thing, and you know how it has lots of different fonts. Every sort of bit is written in a different font.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like the magazines that we were talking about. Well, I was thinking maybe that like each font sort of evokes a different accent. So instead of reading it out as like Hellfire Gala, cost 6, basic action card, blah blah blah, you could do a little accent. Like every time you wanted to read the text out, you'd have to say like Hellfire Gala, cost 6, basic action card. Roll 2 dice from your bag. Each player feels 3 psychic dice from the use button, and so on.
If you're interested in the voice work of James Moore, please call. Please email
Available for weddings, bar mitzvahs.
If anybody can name all the accents that he's just reeled off there as well, then answers on a postcard, please, to hello@dmunited.eu.
Is this how you read your books to your daughter?
Exactly. That's what I've had practice.
And actually, I do think one of the questions that we raised when we talked about these OP kits, because obviously, aside from the fact that you're going to get these Hellfire Gala cards that are not going to be available at this point any other way, there's also the 2 super rares that I think you've already mentioned that are going to be available through the OP kit, which we haven't had before. We haven't had super rare cards available generally as an OP kit. There have been sort of all art prizes, for national competitions and that kind of things like Constantine or Gobby or those kind of shinies of super rares from days gone by. But we haven't had a card that's been a super rare produced as an alt art in an OP kit. And already it feels like we asked the question last time, is this going to entice people back into the stores? And already I'm seeing people talking about organising events in stores. And I feel like this is having the desired effect that
I'm thinking about opening my own store just so I can get the 1 week only.
Ben's pop-up game store.
But it is a good way to get. One of the things the Gobby foil card in this country was one of the main ways people got Gobby.
Yeah.
I know loads of people who the first time they got the Green Goblin Super Rare from AVX was through that promo.
Yeah, actually, that's true for me too. Yeah,
it's a nice alternate way to. It's not the way I did it. I spent a fortune on eBay, but
well, that is Ben's view on the OP kit. Shall we move on to the next segment? Shall we?
I'm very positive anyway, and everyone else is grumpy. So. You weren't too bad. You weren't as grumpy as I thought you were going to be. I feared you were going to be.
I absolutely did rein it in.
All right, well, let's round that up there and move on to our next segment. Okay, well, one of the things that people maybe don't think about that much when it comes to building a team is they might start thinking about which characters they're going to put on. And I'm sure that, like me and probably all of us here, we can spend many an hour agonizing over which cards to put in which slots. But we might spend less time deciding how many dice to put per card that we've got on the team. And someone raised a question in the Facebook page for Dice Masters Unlimited about how do you decide going about how do you go about deciding how many dice to put on each card. So we thought we'd have a bit of a chat about it and come up with a few thoughts of our own because Laurier Joseph Burrell from DM North has come up with a pretty impressive answer, if truth be told.
A very Laurier answer.
It's
very
certainly
structured and organised.
It is certainly thorough. There's no doubt about that. He says, "Here's my approach on how many dice to use per card in my teams. In order, I'll put my teeth in and I'll come back to it. Put 2 dice per card, brackets 16. Go down to 1 die if a card is only there for its global ability. Go to max dice for any card that's 2 cost or less. Add a 3rd die for any card costing 4 or less where you have a benefit to buying multiple, for example, when attacks, when fielded effects, prioritizing 3 cost cards. If you're at less than 20 dice after this, add a 3rd die to any other card costing 4 or less." He says that will usually be sufficient 90% of the time for your team building needs. So That's really interesting because I think, for some of the time people just think, boom, yeah, I'll just put 4 on all the 2 costs, which is kind of what I do. and then, think about 3 or 4 on the ones that are a bit more important. And leave it at that. But obviously Laurier's come up with a really good kind of structure for it. Peter, what are your thoughts? How do you go about doing it?
Roughly subconsciously, pretty much this, what Laurier said. I start with 1 card. I always build my teams in the team builder, unlike Ben, who just goes around with his binder. But I build my teams in the team builder. I put 1 die per card. Then I look at the cost and how many I might buy, and then I'll add a couple here and there. And then usually I'll have like 16 dice or something, and I'll add a couple more where I see fit. But I sort of just wing it.
You don't wing it. You're the most structured team builder out of all of us, I think.
I most certainly am not. Far less methodical than you give me credit for.
But you're the one who comes up with all these silly 3-turn kills and all these kind of bonkers. You're more thorough than you give yourself credit.
Did you just say bonkers again?
That has little to do with the dice count most of the time.
But when you say you consider going up or down, I mean, what sort of things are you taking into account when making those decisions?
Well, usually I will put more dice on my cheaper cards, and if I have a win con, I will usually put a couple extra on there in case I miss my rolls and have to buy another copy of the die. But most of the time, I will have more dice on some of my cards than I would ever buy.
Yeah.
Just because, you can have 20, so I put 20 on.
I think that's where you're going wrong. That's the only advice I have is never to have 20 dice.
Why is that, James?
Cliche, first of all. And secondly, there is a small but, non-zero chance that you might fool somebody by having less dice than they expect. So they might be, obviously they can just ask, but some people might not. So you might trick somebody. They're counting your dice and they're counting back from 20, but you haven't got 20. Haha.
I see. James plays the jerk version, I see.
What else would I
So,
but I thought, sorry to bug.
No, I was just going to say that actually, I mean, in a sort of roundabout way, you might be onto something to a certain degree there, James, because if someone hasn't been paying real close attention after you've bought a few things and they're trying to work out what you've got in your bag, if you started with fewer than 20 dice on your team, they might be thinking, wait, he's only got 13 dice on his mat, so he must have bought 7 things.
Yeah, right.
But I don't think he has. So yeah, maybe that's good. Sorry, Ben, what were you going to say?
Actually, we are anybody though.
And we are talking about high level competitive play. Don't do that if you're playing with your child or something.
Fooled you.
Or maybe James does, but
that might be why she stopped playing with me.
All the low blows.
I wouldn't encourage that for a casual store trying to get new people to play.
No,
because just make them. But it is important to note that it is max 20, not minimum 20.
I'm not just going to put dice on for the sake of it. I can't be arsed with that.
And that's one of my criticisms, I suppose, of Laurier's system here. The fact that he goes to max dice. I mean, it is different because I think the physicality of how I build teams rather than using Team Builder makes this kind of idea that you go to 2 dice per card and then go down to 1 if there's a global ability, because then if I was physically doing that, it would just be weird to put 2 dice down and then be like, nope, take 1 off. Do you know what I mean? Because I have a physical, I had the dice and cards in front of me when I'm messing around with teams.
Yeah.
That's strange. But also the idea that max dice for any card that's 2 cost or less, I fundamentally
don't do that.
Don't think you should do that as a yes, definitely, let's do this. Because I think it does, especially when you're learning the game or practicing teams, it does force you into, or leads to temptation of, I'll buy this 4th die of this 2-cost, whatever. Think of a rubbish 2-cost. Let me look through my thing.
Alfred.
Madeline Pryor. A Madeline Pryor, for example. I don't need 4 Madeline Pryors. No. She has energy drain. Okay, 4 of them is not very useful.
No.
And getting that extra die in your bag is actually a negative thing.
Yeah.
So if you can restrict yourself, the way I generally do it is I put the cards on my mat. I put 3 dice on all the 4 cards on the left-hand side of my playmat, and 2 dice on the ones on my right side.
Oh.
Regardless of what those cards are.
Right.
Literally regardless, yeah, because I do it in number order, because I do the lowest number in my top left. So I'll have a 2-cost to the top left, then a 3-cost, 4-cost, 4-cost, 5-cost, 5-cost, 6-cost.
So that's funny. I do my low costs in the bottom right.
Do you? Okay, yeah, I do it opposite, yeah.
This is a whole new.
Oh no! This is a whole new use pile. Yes.
Put it in ascending order.
I put my globals on the right.
Yeah. That's something else we can do.
Wait, so what? So you actually organise where things go on your mat? This is a thing that's new to me, and you all do it. Wait, what?
What
we have a system.
You don't have like when I have them lined up in my little Ultra Pro box thing here. Shout out to Ultra Pro. You can send me some stuff if you want.
I'm sure that'll happen now.
Yeah, I use their binders as well, so those things aren't cheap. But so I have them all lined up in so you have them lined up in number order, then you have them lined up alphabetically. No? And then I put the...
No.
Okay. That's what I do.
That's a step too far.
That's what I do. So, so I have them all numerically numbered in ascending order in my little Ultra Pro box. So when I put them out in ascending order. All the dice, all the cards on the left-hand side of my playmat get 3 dice, and all the ones on my right get 2 dice.
Because they're more expensive.
And then you can mess around with it as you play. So, for example, on my Danny Moonstar team, I decided I wanted 4 Dannys because Danny Moonstar is awesome. But stuff like Madeline Pryor, you don't need 2.
I mean, you obviously mentioned that Danny Moonstar thing there. I mean, one of the obviously the practical considerations is the fact that Danny Moonstar
team pack.
Most people won't have 2 because it's a team pack. Most people won't have 4 because she came in a team pack and there's only 2 of her. So, for example, with me, I've only got 2 copies of her. Did you buy an extra team pack?
I did, yeah. This is probably my favourite card ever, so I decided to go for her. It was good.
Yeah.
No,
I think laying them out on the mat, I think I do a thing where I tend to put the ones in the middle, the ones that I'm going to buy first or more frequently, on the inside. And on the outside,
not in the reserve pool.
No. But you've got 4 on each side, haven't you? So I put 2. The ones that I'm going to buy
the card tapped in the middle of your field.
No, that's right. Yeah. No, I don't. Maybe the expensive ones on the outside. So maybe I do have a bit of a. I'm not totally weird. There is some order.
It does lead to problems the way I do it, because sometimes you'll end up with a card with 3 dice on it that can only have max 2. Which is when it's a cheaper card. That happens to me all the time. I don't think about it.
Take the max dice into consideration.
Yeah.
That's a good
and then
tip.
Also the opposite way, right? So Jubilee, obviously, the one that you attack with all of them and you win.
Yeah.
You need 5 dice on that, right? So
5, yeah. Yeah, I mean, actually, that is a good point. One thing obviously, you do need to pay close attention to some, because some of them, I mean, it seems like the overwhelming majority of cards have max 4, don't they? But there are a few that catch you out with max 2, or, as you mentioned, Jubilee, or max 5, or even the odd one that's max 1. Things like Ring of Winter was max 1, wasn't it? And was Millennium Puzzle, was that max 1? I got a feeling it was.
Yeah.
It was. There's something stupid recently that should be max 4, but it's max 2. But I can't remember what it is. Sorry, cheap. Oh, the Yawning Portal is only max 2?
No. Is it?
No, something like that. Something like that. I don't know.
Interesting.
Do my cards.
Obviously, Nick Fury, the old 2-cost Nick Fury back in the day, he was is it 2-cost that...
Patch.
Patch, he was...
Or all of them, I think, on Premier X. Max 4. Max 2.
Yeah. So, yeah, max dice is something to consider. And obviously, yeah, the number of dice you have. Oh, we should mention one thing you can do, though, is obviously there is a proxy dice tool, isn't there, that has been developed. James, wasn't it developed?
In Slovakia.
In Slovakia, yeah.
By Petr Ježek.
Yes. Yeah,
He's
and
great.
absolutely, people can find it on if you go to the Dice Coalition Team Builder, it is under Tools, the Proxy Dice link, and it is in fact just proxydice.com. We'll link to it in the show notes, and you can just type in there the name of the character that you want to match, or you can type in the stats, and it'll come up with with the dice that might be the same if you're looking for a proxy of the same stats.
Better still, Spug, you can actually go to our own website. You'll find it under Dice Fight, Proxy Dice. I asked Petr for permission, and we actually have it embedded on the webpage.
I love our website. Our website is so great. Thank you for putting that on there.
We have all the things.
We'll just link everything.
We just need a team builder, and then we have everything.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Where is it on our website, then?
If you go to Dice Fight, all sort of competitive stuff is hover over Dice Fight, and there's lots of subcategories, starting with the Meta Chronicle.
Oh, so there is.
Orange band lists and stuff, and then near the bottom you've got Proxy Dice.
Oh, yeah. I feel like that's a great thing to have on there. Yeah, it's a brilliant tool, and very, very handy if you're running short of dice. Are there any other things that we need to be considering when it comes to dice? I mean, obviously, Ben, you mentioned that thing about sometimes it's not a good thing to have more of the cheap rubbish dice because it can encourage you to buy them when you don't actually want to. But are there other things around when you want more dice? Sometimes you might there be occasions where, say, you have a 6 cost and you want like 4 of them because actually, even though it's 6 cost, you've got a clever way of buying them cheaply. Are there sort of situations where that would be the case?
I mean, yeah, on my team that uses the beholder, that's not the beholder, Silgar, and
the fish, yeah. Is it Neolor? No,
Xanathar.
Xanathar, thank you very much.
It.
Yeah, so Xanathar has Spark, which lets you buy or use a global for free. Sorry. So in that team, I can buy lots of Xanathars using Silgar. And then I also have a cost reduction. I have the Kree Captain Global. So actually, I want my Spark to trigger as many times as possible to make the most maximum use out of it. So actually, having a bunch of dice on 3 costs is less good for me. That's a good example of where if I have 4 dice on Silgar, it's actually clogging up my bag with all these fish that are useless to me. But also, it's taking up max dice space for 6 costs or 5 costs that I can buy for cheaper. Which is
it's a good point. And it runs alongside your argument about why you hate big entrance, isn't it? The one that enables you to buy stuff more cheaply and then flood your bag with cheap stuff early on because your bag just gets stuffed with stuff, and then later on you end up with an action that's not really any use to you.
Stuffed with stuff, says the German.
Stuff with stuff.
Stuff with stuff.
Eloquence.
It's just say
Stuffed
it like it is.
With dice.
Yes. Stuffed with dice as well, yeah. Yeah. Eloquently put as ever. Well, should we round that discussion up there and move on to the next segment? Okay, well, everyone here is very excited that the Two Team Takedown tournament is making a triumphant return to the tabletop. Do we want to say any more T's there? Can we think of any? Maybe not.
Tasty.
It is going to be tasty. And if anybody doesn't know what the Two Team Takedown is, who wants to explain the format? Peter, I normally come to you on this because you always know these kind of things.
So yeah, for the Two Team Takedown, you build 2 teams and they can have 0 overlap in this case. So they have to be completely different from each other. No matching titles anywhere.
Yeah.
And you play against an opponent once a week, and you have to win with both teams to win.
Yep.
So you'll play one team first, and then your opponent will choose one of their teams. And then if you win, you have to switch teams.
Mm-hmm.
And if you lose, you can choose to switch teams, but it's not necessary. But you have to win with both of your teams at some point. Otherwise, you will not win.
Are you going to have a go at him for saying win in the same sentence twice there as well, James? Or is it just me you're going to pick up on?
No, just you.
Thanks. I'm glad we know where we stand. Carry on, Peter.
And so this particular version run by DM North will also have a ban list consisting of 3 cards, the big 3.
The big
so
3.
that'll be Becky Lynch, Made in Ireland,
Mm-hmm.
The famous
Thor,
walking statue,
Godcatcher,
and Thor Jormungandr's Fear.
Yes.
Is it just those versions?
Yes.
Yes, you can play other versions of those cards, but not those particular ones.
Indeed. And you get lined up with one person once a week. It's an online tournament, and it's going to be getting underway. Well, in fact, the day that we come out, I think, is supposed to be day 1 of the tournament. And we've
so
always
if you're not
enjoyed
signed
this.
up, you're too late.
Sorry.
We did mention it last week.
Yeah,
maybe
and the week before, and
maybe ask they might have a free slot. Maybe, who knows?
You never know.
Yeah, if you send a PM, maybe you can arrange something.
Yeah. So that is the format, and I think people are kind of looking forward to it because it's a fun way. But we thought we'd have a bit of a think. Without those big 3 being there, what do we reckon is going to rise to the top? What's going to be strong? What's going to be ruling the roost? Ben, do you think this time around?
I feel like it's the 2 teams I'm going to be playing.
Which are?
I can't tell you that. That's a secret.
Whatever Ben's playing is going to win.
Content.
Okay.
No.
Don't tell me, but you can tell the listeners because
no. So I think it's surprising they haven't banned kind of the not quite made it 2. I guess Iceman and Green Lantern are like obvious kind of 2 that stand out to me. I probably won't be playing one of them, but I will be playing Iceman. Well, I'll probably be playing Iceman. I probably won't be playing Green Lantern. And I think the other third one is probably the Jubilee, maybe the 5 cost. 5 characters, get them out, win. 3 cost Jubilee. I like those. I think direct damage will be strong. So
yeah,
and then also probably the 4 cost Becky over crushing, or maybe Deadpool over crushing.
Yeah, that's still a contender.
But I would strongly advise you have some kind of defense against direct damage. I think that's probably going to be
what is there apart from Black Widow, which is just -1?
Nothing.
Nothing. That's the problem.
yeah. And you can only have
chunks. If it's just pingy stuff, well, she's a problem for Iceman.
Big.
Not so much for Jubilee.
No.
Or Green Lantern.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe, but it might be interesting doing because, you're right. The Black Widow is good defense against Iceman, but the other 2, Jubilee and Green Lantern, both kind of revolve around having lots of dice and getting those dice round. So maybe some kind of bag disruption, like the keyword.
You're going to say that keyword that nobody can remember, where you can take dice out of your opponent's bag.
Corrupt.
Corrupt. Thank you. Good grief! What has happened to our collective memory tonight? We can't remember anything between.
It's been a while.
Nobody ever uses corrupt.
No, but go on.
That might be interesting because Jubilee definitely. I mean, one of the reasons I sort of hate that team secretly, even though I'm a big proponent of that card. I think it's a really good card, but I always lose my bag in it. The rampant churn in this meta is not good enough to sustain that Jubilee. Because the slightest thing that goes wrong, if you're me anyway, I know some people tend to be able to draw. I don't want to name any names, but some people can just draw in like turn 3. They have all 5 Jubilees somehow. But I mean, if your dice work like that, then that's great. But for me, it just always seems to go a little bit wrong, a little bit skew-if, and then you end up with 2 Jubilees at the bottom of your 20 bag full of dice. You're just like, well, this is never going to happen now. So do I attack with the 3 Jubilees I have, and then they get cycled round, and then I'm waiting for them all to come back round again? It's so reliant on getting all 5 out to do that kind of big, or at least 4 out to do that big kind of push damage.
Because your bag just gets stuffed with stuff, doesn't it?
Because you have to, yeah. Because you have to buy all those 5, and then you probably have to buy another couple of dice just to get round to those 5. Yeah, there's a bit of a problem. And then the same with the Green Lantern to an extent, in that you need to get a big enough volume of dice, particularly characters or non-basic actions that you can roll as double energy. I mean, it's mitigated a little bit with Clayface. But yeah, maybe some global hate against Clayface would probably be useful, because I assume Clayface will be on everyone's at least one of everyone's teams somehow.
You'd have thought so.
Possibly.
So some way to hate on that.
Pip or what's her face?
Danny Moonstar, Typhoid Mary.
No. The one
Mary Poppins.
That stops you. that only allows you to use one global per turn.
Oh, is that Emma Frost? No.
Oh, it's green. It's green.
Poison Ivy.
Polaris.
Of course. Yes. How can we forget?
One. Yeah. So I hate that card so much.
Yeah, that is anti-fun.
Yeah.
Don't stop globals.
It's not quite as bad as Wrecker, but still.
Global are the funnest part about the game. Don't stop them.
Yeah.
You jerks.
Peter, what do you reckon is gonna be big this time around?
I mean the Danny Moonstar removal thingy could also work very well, but like the Spider-Man and just
it's gonna be so annoying, isn't it?
Yeah. I could see that working, because even if people bring a big E, you're just gonna go wide and just ping them with a bunch of stuff. So that could be very annoying.
It's gonna be sorry, just the Troy team that's like Spider-Man plus Danny, like just removing stuff all the time, and then you have Pip the Troll, and then you just don't have any characters in the field.
Yeah, and then they feel the Black Widow that gives everything +1 attack, and then they kill you.
Yeah, I fear though that I feel like not many people will be running that version of Black Widow, because most people will be having Agent, probably, won't they, for the damage reduction. Particularly,
I am running the other Black Widow, the one with Energize,
the spin down one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's an interesting aspect of this kind of 2 Team Takedown tournament that we haven't seen in previous ones, as far as I'm aware. Is that you can only have one version of each named character, not
that's right.
Not delineated by subtitle, but by main title. So you can't have more than one Black Widow, which actually, there's a load of good Black Widows. There's the Agent, there's the Energized one, and there's the +1 with the Force Attack on it.
Yeah.
So choosing one of those is going to be an issue.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, because if you kind of want both of them, and in fact, sometimes people might have 2 different versions of the same character with, because they want that global again on the other team, but they won't be able to do that this time around.
Yeah, so, you can only have one Becky global.
Yeah, exactly. So it promises to be interesting. James, are you? What are you expecting in terms of things that rise to the top?
I think you're underestimating the huge bullseye meta that's no doubt going to happen.
Bullseye comes to the fore.
Bullseye. Yeah,
play bullseye.
Global though.
Yeah. Can't be a bit of bully.
You can't be. No, not that any of our North American listeners or anybody outside the UK or anybody over the age of under the age of 40.
Yeah, I very barely get that reference.
I don't.
We're getting on.
I know.
But it's interesting not being able to have like Atlantis. I'm just looking through some of my cards. The Atlantis Global, not being able to have that on both teams is interesting.
Yeah.
Not being able to have the 2-cost and 3-cost Godcatcher, the Yawning Portals are going to be affected.
Yep.
So a couple of things. It's going to be a slightly more interesting team build rather than, I think the 2 Team Takedown is a great format in play. With team building, it's almost too big and too easy to build for.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, the 3-cost Godcatcher is banned, just to be Just to be clear on that one. But I think the 2 cost could actually see a reasonable amount of play anyway, because that's the one that triggers a...
Almost better, but although it's less good if the 3 cost isn't in the meta.
Yes, because you won't be seeing any.
If people show up with the 4 cost Becky,
yeah,
it could
which
be good.
People will. I think that would be a popular choice, to be honest.
The Pip the Trolls will be an interesting choice, I suppose. Although the uncommon hasn't seen anywhere near as much play as I sort of feared it would. The one that makes action globals 1 extra.
Yes.
Versus the rare that just removes stuff for funds.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that rare is so good, isn't it? That it's
it's gross.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of control in this meta is going to be even more frightening without, like, it could lead to just heavy wall games, Typhoid Mary, Drax. If you just get those out. So there's going to be an interesting balance of cards you want to keep in the field to control your opponent versus do you just go for, like, removal options of Pip the Troll, Spider-Man, those kind of aggressive removal. That balance is going to be interesting, especially with having to play 2 teams. Like, I assume most people are going to put kind of a team where they want characters in the field for one, and then the kind of removal options on another, so you have that balance.
Yeah.
But then those kind of matchups will be interesting.
They will indeed. Do we think that there would be anything else that might rise to the top? Or what about the Jubilee? What about Hope? The Hope Rachel combo. Hopeful, yeah. I feel that could be good.
Have wings.
Yeah, I think that could be good, personally.
I mean,
I was thinking about playing that.
It's one of the things that might be good with that corrupt mechanism.
Yeah.
Not until the Dark Phoenix comes about, right? The global on demand. The Milo global is not good enough, is it? To make, I mean, maybe.
What, because it just knocks something out? You don't get because the Dark Phoenix gives you a discount and then buying stuff as well.
And then you can work right. It's only once per turn, so you have to kind of commit to it.
Yeah. And the timing of it is awkward, isn't it? Because you don't want to knock everything out at the right moment. Yeah, there's some. But there are certainly things there. Well, I mean, we might all look very foolish, and everybody could have, because obviously by the time we're published, the team lists will also have been published. So
and we'll be awash with bullseyes.
Can I give?
And James will be celebrating.
Maybe one last shout out, and it kind of links it back in with our Max Dice, Venerable Dreadnought. Because that Black Widow is probably too strong. But that kind of range, and it's only Max Dice 2, and that was the dice I was thinking about earlier, where I got a second I think it was in a team pack, right?
Oh, right, yes.
And I bought a second team pack thinking, I need 3 dice maybe for the thing, and it's Max 2. So,
yeah,
that was a rookie mistake. Yeah, very good. Well, that could be good. I mean, Venerable General again and we've said this on this podcast before. It's been one of those cards that bubbled under for far too long and never really got to have its day in the sun, did it? So who knows? This might be the time. Well, we will see what happens over the next few weeks with the Two Team Takedown. You'll be able to follow it on its DM North that have been putting on the tournament. It's based on a format that was first invented by CR Game Room, and DM North have been collaborating by Nick Wale, friend of our pod.
Professor Nick Wale.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it indeed?
He just has a
actually
mustache
is.
now. No, not really. He just has a mustache and a pipe. That's it. That's the only difference.
Okay, well, shout out to the Professor for helping bring back this format, and it promises to be a great time over the next few weeks. We will be keeping an eye on it and reporting back when we know who has won and who has completely put us to shame by coming up with something totally new that none of us saw coming. Well, let's move on to the next segment. Okay, well, at the time of recording, we've just had a weekend stacked full of Dice Masters action, and Breath Weapon X Fest 3 has just taken place. Peter, we sent you along as our intrepid reporter to take part in the event, although of course it was online. But what was the format? How did the day go? And what happened?
Right, so the format was the XL format, where you get to have 10 cards on your team plus 3 basic actions.
Oof.
And a max dice of 24.
24?
Yes. And it was golden with the orange ban lists in place.
So anything quite mean was not allowed? Is that
yes,
true?
But there was a lot of mean stuff still left.
And what did you play? How many players took part? It was not like it was organised. We should say it was organised by Rob and Alex, the good fellas over at Breath Weapon X channel. How many players were there?
Mostly Rob, I understand, but
he did all the heavy work.
Still a shout out to Alex.
Yes. How many players were there, and what happened?
There were 24 players, which is a pretty good turnout.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. So I played 5 rounds. I played a pretty ridiculous team, as can be expected of me. Speaking of max dice, actually, I put 4 dice on a 10 cost for this team.
That's the way to go.
That's how I do it. It was on the left-hand side of my mat, so I mean,
you just had to. What was it and why?
It was the promo Thanos.
Right.
So it's that Thanos says when you attack, when it's the first die you assign to attack, you get to use all of the basic action cards on both players' sides.
Right.
And the idea was to get him cheaply with Page Manager, the basic action.
Right.
And then I had I've made a video about this with James about a turn 3 kill. But because I got to roll so many dice, because you draw 6 per turn, I decided to see if I could make it a turn 2 kill team. I didn't actually manage it during the tournament, but it had the potential to do it.
Really?
And so besides the Page Manager, I had Eldritch Blast,
right,
which draws a die from your bag and deals damage to your opponent equal to the purchase cost. That was going to be the 10 cost Thanos.
Yeah.
Which I would put in there with the Page Manager, which also would trigger. And then I had the Scorching Ray, which does the same thing as Eldritch Blast. So I had basically 2 copies of Eldritch Blast. So I could draw a Thanos twice, deal 20 damage that way. And the idea was to also roll an Eldritch Blast and use that to finish them off with the final 10.
Just in case. Of course, because they had 30 life, didn't they?
Yes, because you're at 30 life in this format.
And actually, what you didn't mention, I think, was that you roll 6 dice. You have 12 sidekicks, don't you? You start with 12 sidekicks instead of 8.
Yeah, so and you draw 6 every turn, except for the first. If you're going first, then you draw 5.
Yeah.
So I was actually, I also had Atlas on my team, and I had Professor X and Clayface.
Right.
And combined, I managed to roll 13 dice on my second turn.
Brilliant. Ben would have enjoyed that, I'm sure.
You love that combo, don't you, Peter?
Yeah, it's the best thing.
So you didn't quite manage to pull it off actually in a live game then? Because you did do it, didn't you? With a video. In that video, didn't you do it? Or did you cheat? I can't remember.
Well, we did a video on the turn 3 version of this team with the regular number of dice.
Yeah.
And that I did manage during the video. I managed this one in sort of goldfishing the team
in
a couple of times, actually.
In what? What did you say? In what were you doing?
Goldfishing.
What's that?
That is where you just play the team against yourself, basically. It's a term from Magic.
Oh, I see. I was going to say most people just call that testing, don't they?
Yeah.
Don't know why you have to bring fish into it.
And so I pulled it off twice in, I think, like 7 or 8 attempts, which is completely
that's pretty low.
Crazy, because the probability of actually managing it was, I think, maybe 5% or something, probably a little less. But still, I had hopes that I could manage it during the tournament. But the best I did was a turn 3.
Well, that's pretty horrid, though, nonetheless.
Yeah.
What was your record in the end? How did you go? And
I went 3-2.
No, respectable.
So that's not bad.
And what else did you see? Who won? And what did they play? How did they go
on? I don't actually know what the winning team was. I know Whip It Good won.
Oh, excellent!
In the end, there was no one with a 5-0 record. I think there were 3-4-1s.
Right.
So he won due to the Buckholz thingy.
Right. Yeah.
Who else was in there? I think was it? No. I think no. Actually, there were 4 people with a 4-1 record. I think. So there were a lot of people that did fairly well. I think I could have won some of my matches that I lost. But my page manager rolled badly many times.
Really?
Yeah. And then there were some people that brought Oracle.
Oh, how?
Who would do such a thing?
Oh, no, that's disgraceful.
And yeah, there was one match where I thought I was going to win, and then they had create food and water on their team, and I forgot what the actual action does, but it prepped the Thanos that was in my bag, and then I couldn't roll it with the draw it with the Eldritch Blast.
Oh,
that was a sad time.
But couldn't you have just done it in a different order?
No, because I had the actual action for Eldritch Blast, which I was going to do after doing all the basic actions and do another 10 damage because I needed 30.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So with Thanos' text, where it says you may immediately use each of the basic action die abilities,
it's all or nothing.
It's all or nothing.
It's all or nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you can't just choose to do some of them.
No. So that was a sad time.
Yeah. Well, so go on, James.
Whip It Good. Sorry, I was just looking at Whip It Good's team. He seems to have been playing King Black Bolt as the wing con.
Oh, that is cool.
With Jessica Jones as a backup, that one that you pump up when globals, and then a bunch of control that I can see, and ramp obviously, and then there's pin particles in there.
Oh, right.
Pump,
Brilliant.
Pump Jessica, give her Overcrush. Just
okay, there you go. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that works.
So actually, I've just looked up the standings, and there were in fact 5 players,
5 even,
that finished 4-1, which is pretty extraordinary. And in fact, the top 12 players, so half the players had a 3-2 record, but yeah, 5 players finished 4-1. Whip It Good, Raw Travel, Tuber 2K7, Super K16, Kim from Double and Dice, and Rinse Event all finished 4-1, and then they just had this countback saying the buttholes thing that no one understands. But
I mean, one of the underrated things about that format, I suppose, is the kind of added randomness that rolling 6 dice over rolling 4. It doesn't seem like it would, and it doesn't technically add any more randomness.
Yeah.
Right, because you're still guaranteed the same odds on each die.
Yeah.
But there's some kind of math funkiness that actually does make it more difficult or more random, quote unquote.
Yeah. But it certainly sounded like it was a fun day. What would you play, Ben, if you were playing an XL team? Was there anything you'd be bursting to pull out from you?
I'm going to look up the name of it. The Hulk from AVX where it has max 5. Just because that's funny. By all of it, you know what I'm talking about?
I think that was probably banned.
Oh, no, what?
No. The one that gets to prep another Hulk or whatever it is.
The one that gets to prep Hulks, yeah.
Yeah.
What was that one? Wait.
Wasn't it the uncommon, the max 5?
They're not. That's not max 5. No, so I was thinking about, sorry. I was thinking about Annihilator, Hulk Annihilator. While Hulk is active, when either you or Hulk takes damage, move all Hulk dice from your use pile to your prep area.
Oh, yeah.
That was just funny.
It is only max 4.
And then try and field them.
And try and
exactly. Yeah. Bring out the Yawning Portal.
Which would be very amusing.
I feel like I'd want the Bizarro that gets +2. Is it +2 attack for all the Globers on your opponent's team?
I think Rob was running that.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool. He's got Overcrush, isn't he? And he can get in massive. got a few.
Yeah, it would have been huge against my team. I had 8 globals.
Oh, flip. Brilliant. Good. Well done to everybody who took part. Thanks to Rob and Alex for running Breath Weapon X Fest 3. It certainly is a mouthful, but I think it's going to be even worse when it's Breath Weapon X Fest 4, probably. But thanks, guys, for doing that. Let's just round up with a little bit of AoB, shall we? All right, first thing on the agenda is Dice Fight as ever. James, I'll come to you with our resident Dice Fight expert. What's going on over the next couple of weeks at the 9 p.m. UK time Thursday night online event?
It very much depends what the date is, but I believe the next event is the 10th of February, right?
It is.
Right?
Yes.
Which Rick and Danny have updated the calendar now on the website, so it says no combat damage. This is the sort of opposite of the fisticuffs event. Laser Eyes, I'm going to call it.
Oh.
And it's a silver event, which means all the cards from Green Arrow, the Flash onwards. And it's orange, so the orange band list. So that's fun. And on February the 17th, we have Pauper, a golden Pauper event, again with the orange band list. So if you want to get involved, please do.
Oh, yeah. We'll put a link in the show notes to Dice Fight, or indeed you can find it. Well, that's definitely something you can find on our website. I know that for sure. So go to...
You'd be surprised what you can find on our website.
It's pretty good. Go there. So, yeah, Dice Fight Thursday night. Do get involved. No prizes, only fun, isn't it, James? But it is a lot of fun for the people who take part. So, great thing to get involved with. Also, we've had a bit of correspondence, I believe. Dana, General Nemesis, many thanks for getting in touch. It was great to hear your message welcoming us back to the airways after our break. He says he's missed not having his bi-weekly bird watching tutorials, so we're very pleased that we can be back with James, who hasn't actually mentioned a single bird this time.
But since you asked,
You have a bird update.
Just this week, yesterday, it was amazing, right? I had some news in the morning. I looked at my phone, and Facebook told me I had won the RSPB, which is the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, Facebook competition to have my photo used as their sort of title image for the month of February. What a massive victory that was.
I mean, you weren't the only entrant.
No, not at all. I actually went to look, and there were over 300 entries. And
it was a very, very pleasant photo, James. I will agree.
Thanks.
It was a really nice picture.
It made my day, that. You don't win stuff. Well, I don't win stuff very often anyway. That was really nice. And then, on the very same day, I was making lunch, and I looked through the kitchen window, and I saw this flash of red in the neighbour's garden. And I dashed to get my camera, knowing that it was a green woodpecker. Spoilers. And green woodpeckers, which in Slovak is a žulna, which is a wonderful word, žulna zelena. And they're fantastic looking creatures. And although they're woodpeckers, they don't spend all the times in trees. They like to stick their big beak into the ground and try and get ants and stuff out of the ground. And it was brilliant. And then today, sorry, I have nearly finished now, but today...
Dana, what have you done?
Not only one in my neighbour's garden, but simultaneously a green woodpecker in my garden. How great is that?
They're a bit commonplace now, aren't they? We've seen them 3 times. A bit boring.
They're lovely. They're really lovely. Anyway, go and check it out. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Oh, please do.
Why are they called green woodpeckers when they're red?
They're not. Sorry, they have a red head, but they are otherwise mostly green.
Okay.
So.
Stop encouraging him, Peter. Right, so let's get back to the Dice Masters. If you want to get in touch with us, you can use the email address, which, James, is...
it's hello@dmunited.eu.
Yeah, it'd be great to hear from you. If you've got any thoughts on Max Dice, how do you go about planning your teams in terms of the number of dice that you allocate? How do you lay out your teams on your map? I didn't even know that was a thing. But I'm going to guess that now we've opened that can of worms, there's going to be a discussion as to what should go on the top and what should go on the bottom. But if you want to let us know what your approach to laying stuff out is, then by all means, James will be very pleased to hear from you via that email address.
Surely everyone does it in just ascending number. That just seems crazy not to. You're mental if you don't do that.
Well, thanks.
We just live in chaos. That's the thing, I think, Ben.
Where's the order?
Yeah. Yeah, you got getting Darth Vader vibes from you. You want to bring order into chaos. Anyway, enough about that. So do get in touch if you've got any thoughts on any other part of the show. If you've enjoyed listening to DM United, it would be great if you could leave us a lovely review using your favourite podcast app. And don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back again in 2 weeks' time. And until then, it's bye-bye from me.
Bye-bye. And thanks also to Bryle for his lovely comment.
Huh.
And my turn now. Bye.
Well, so long, and thanks for all the fish.